Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Human Echoes podcast, the show where we review oddball movies, have oddball discussions, and occasionally take questions from you, the oddball fans.
I'm Tony Southcott.
And I'm Albert Berg, and the oddball movie for this week is John Carpenter's Escape from New York, starring Kurt Russell as the icon, Snake Plissken.
I have one question for you, Al. Are you a bad enough dude to save the president?
No, I'm not. I'm not even a bad enough dude to really like this movie that much, Tony.
That does make you a bad
I'll take
person,
my beating
but
now.
not a bad dude. All right, let's give people the summary. In 1997, when the U.S. president crashes into Manhattan.
Yeah, the
giant
far-off
maximum security
dystopian
prison.
future of 1997.
A convicted bank robber / special ops agent is sent to rescue him.
That's Snake
That would be
Plissken.
Kurt Russell. Yes.
Yeah. This is one of my movie shames, Tony. I've seen this in the past. I didn't love it when I saw it in the past. I was hoping that this week, with the benefit of 200 plus podcasts under my belt and a lot of sort of trying to evolve the way I think about movies and really delve into the nitty gritty and everything, that I would get this movie this time around. And
I still I don't see how you don't get movies like this whenever you like so much Asylum stuff. Like, it feels like it's the same flavor to me.
Okay, so but the Asylum doesn't make good movies, Tony.
This isn't an objectively good movie. It's just a schlocky action movie from the 80s.
So, we're not going with
You're taking it too seriously.
People love John Carpenter. There are like all these
too.
hot takes about how he's got all these societal forces that he's summarizing and everything. And I guess, yeah, if you want to take it as just cheap, cheesy action, maybe there's something. Here's the thing. I don't even enjoy it on that level that much. It's so slow. He has so many really long takes and so many people giving bored deliveries of their lines, and the credits go on for an hour before the movie starts, and it's not even an interesting font.
At least it's only 9 minutes of movie after that hour, though.
That's true, yes. It was. Once I sat through that, there's weird editing problems. There's at the beginning where there's that moment where Snake is walking along and the guy's like, "Hey, Snake," and then it just fades to black and smash cut to something else because we need to establish that, and we didn't really need to see that. Why was that even in there? I think that from a special effects point of view, this movie is admirable. The fact that he was able to do a lot with a little in the special effects department, even though this was probably his biggest budget film.
After this movie, I'm pretty sure they started taking his budget away.
Did it not do well?
Actually, this one did all right. This one, it was $6 million, gross 25, so that's a pretty good return on investment. I know that by the time he got to They Live, he'd had a couple commercial flops. And they were just basically trying to rip all of his budgets away.
I just don't. I don't find his directing style that interesting. It's maybe, I don't know how done this was at the time, but I mean, the dystopian future is kind of played out by now. We've seen a lot of that, and this is really just another flavor of that. The premise doesn't make any real sense as a metaphor for Manhattan as a crime center, right? I read an analysis of the film that was saying that really the point is that New York and Manhattan is already this center of criminality, and we could just wall it off and nothing would change.
Maybe it was a bit different back in the 80s. I've always heard that New York back then was just a dirty, terrible, dangerous city back at that time, and then it kind of gentrified its way out.
But it didn't. The movie's so bleak and so negative. Okay, so on the one hand, you have this police state where the police are literally the military. They're virtually indistinguishable. You can't tell whether these are policemen or like military forces or special ops or what. They're surrounding this island of Manhattan, which I guess will accept the fact that it's been turned into a prison because that's the premise of the movie. Okay, I don't really love that premise, but from a metaphorical standpoint, maybe it works and all that stuff. But then you go into the island and everybody sucks there too. There's not a point of view here. There's not somebody to cheer for.
Well, did you expect them to go like Australia and just make like a utopia down there? They don't have enough room for that.
I'm not saying a utopia, but at least paint these people as... Paint somebody as a human freaking being, Tony. At some point. I'm not saying that there's character motivations and stuff that go in. Snake has his relationship with Brain and everything. That's fine. But there's nobody to root for. There's no point of view that the movie has except for that the world sucks.
Yeah, and Snake Plissken is the person you root for because he's a bad dude and he's awesome.
He's literally a penis. He's a one-eyed snake. And if you
that's
didn't
why
get
you root
it,
for him.
if you didn't get it, he has like the giant cobra coming out of his pants. Like, guys, just so you know, my penis, it's big. It's a big penis, guys.
So comparing
Also,
this
two
to Big Trouble in Little China, did you like that more?
Compared to this, yeah.
Okay. Just trying to figure out where you stand on this, because I know you didn't like Big Trouble in Little China. You've got like this thing where you really can't like anything that John Carpenter's ever done. Like you decide that beforehand because you don't like The Thing. And The Thing is like honestly like top 5 movie all time.
I'm
like,
okay
easily.
with The Thing. I like the horror elements of The Thing. I mean, I liked John Carpenter's The Ward better than I like this movie.
I don't know if I ever saw The Ward.
It's not a great movie, but it has some interesting horror elements, and the directing and editing feels a little snappier in that. And it's got a bunch of cute girls on the screen, which you don't get very much of that in this movie. There's a lot of man flesh in this movie.
You get a couple girls in this. Like the first woman you see like comes onto him and then gets immediately like ripped under the floor.
Yeah, because you can't have that.
Yeah.
One-eyed snake needs to keep his head from exploding.
Then Brain's girlfriend, I think her name was Maggie. Like she was actually in a lot of different horror movies. Adrienne Barbeau. I
believe that was actually John Carpenter's wife too.
Yeah, pretty sure.
At the time.
Also, she was in that episode of I think it was Blood Ties, the one with Bill Oberst Jr. on what's the show? Wasn't CSI? It's one of those criminal procedural shows.
Oh, Criminal Minds. Yeah,
Criminal Minds. Like she was like the incest sister in that episode.
You brought up the fact. I mean, we're talking about the makeup of this prison island, and there's the idea that this prison is mostly men, but there are women in there. So I mean, maybe that's just because more men commit crimes. It is nice that in the future we've stopped racially profiling people so much, because it's like all white dudes in this prison, except for the one like main head dude.
Then the Duke, the black dude took over. Isaac Hayes.
I'm joking a little bit, but obviously that's just sort of casting choices made at the time. I don't know. It's again, I have problems identifying with this as an action movie because there are so many really long takes and it's so bleak and everybody's a bad person in this. Even Snake Plissken isn't really a good dude. He's just out to save his own skin. You get kind of the idea that like he was a good guy at one point and then he got disillusioned with the government. That's all sort of hinted at, which is fine. There's a lot of kind of hinted at world building in this movie. There's the whole terrorism thing where they're sort of lady lackadaisically reading her terrorist manifesto into the microphone of the plane as they crash it.
As they like totally took over Air Force One somehow.
Yeah, I would almost be more interested in a prequel to this. I know that's blasphemy to some people, but how did they take over Air Force One? What was Snake doing over Leningrad all those years ago?
I mean, I would be more interested in seeing that for sure. I'd like to see what he did in Leningrad. Just get like the old Snake Plissken. On a side note, have you ever seen Escape from L.A.?
I have not.
It is so bad. It is so bad. Like his entire life hinges on like a basketball game at one point. Like it just gets so ridiculous. I think he surfs off the island. Like it's weird.
I've heard the negatives, and since I didn't love this one, and this is the one people like, I thought to myself, I'll just steer clear of the one that even the people who like this one don't like.
Yeah, this is like a movie my dad was telling me as a kid that I needed to grow up to watch so I could know how men are supposed to act. I'm pretty sure it was in jest, but like he was more like, watch Rudy, this will show you how to be.
I want to
still.
One of the things that I did like about the movie, one of the few times when I really got invested, was in that fight that he has with the big dude towards the end.
And with the nail bats and everything.
Yeah, well, they had that great escalation, right? They start off, I would have said start off with bare hands and then go to the bats, but they start off with bats. Then they move on to bats with nails in them, and like, I would assume very ineffective trash can shields.
Yeah.
They seem to do okay. But in that moment, like, they do a really good job of crafting a sense of peril for Snake because he is already badly injured. Like, he's limping up to the podium where they're going to have the fight, the boxing ring or whatever. And he's sort of, hardly able to get into the fight. And there was a real sense of drama there. That was the one moment where I was like, yeah, when he finally does beat that guy.
Yeah, because there's never really a point where he gets like a leg up on the guy until the end of that fight. Like, you might see him land a kick or like sort of hit him with a bat, but it wasn't like a back and forth fight. It was mostly just an ass beating for a while.
Yeah, and it works so well when he finally finds that little place to slide in and get his one killing blow. That felt like a fist pump good moment to me. And again, I wanted more of that. If that's what the movie's going for, there wasn't enough of it for me. Then maybe that's just my personal taste. I mean, obviously it's personal taste.
I had that feeling a little bit at the end when the president actually picks up the gun.
Oh,
but
I got that too. Although it's hard. That's such a weird moment. Like, on the one hand, he's got his... well, you say what you were going to say, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
No, I think I know where you're going with it, where it's like he has his heroic moment, and then like not even 5 minutes later, it's kind of destroyed. But it's like... It's a moment that felt slightly out of character, but also felt like it was well-earned and well-deserved in some ways. Like,
well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, he put through so much crap, He had suffered so much to get there, and it's... Maybe they're saying something... Again, trying to read some kind of subtext into this. Maybe they're saying something about sort of the idea of heroism versus real heroism. Like, he gets delivered that moment on the platter, and then he gets to sort of have his moments of glory, ha 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 ha, but it's not real, whereas Snake fought and earned every win that he got. Maybe that's what they're saying, but there is that moment where you empathize with him because he got beat down so hard and he gets to come back a little bit at the end there.
And I did like Lee Van Cleef, even if he was just kind of like standard military asshole. I'm surprised you didn't like the cabbie, Ernest Borgnine.
I didn't understand... Like, his character felt weirdly out of place, or I didn't understand what he was doing there. He had access to gasoline, which he not only was able to run his cab around on, but also waste in Molotov cocktails. As he says, like, man, this stuff's really expensive. You could have just driven off, dude.
Is it wasted if you get to throw Molotov at somebody?
I don't know, man. I don't know what the economics of this place are like. I don't know where he got his cabbie. If he just was a cabbie in New York and felt like not leaving when they walled it in, there's no explanation there. What did he do? He's one of the few people that doesn't seem like a real criminal. A brain to a certain extent as well, although he obviously worked with Pliskin at some point.
Yeah, I'm guessing that was more in Pliskin's like heist career later.
Yeah. Again, would love to see that as well, but
yes, let's make this movie longer for you.
No. I just think that there's a version of this that I would like, but it's the tone and the pacing and everything that John Carpenter just doesn't hit it for me.
I think a lot of this is also just 1981, like 1980s action. A lot of them had this. It's got that like terrible, like super artificial punch noise every time somebody gets punched. It's the same exact thing. The fight choreography is poor as shit. Like, it's just, it's terrible. But it's so fun at the same time for me. For me, it's really fun. So, I feel bad disliking this because I know I'm making somebody mad out there. I know that this movie has a ton of fans. I was expecting you to be
like way harder on
No,
me than you are being.
like the thing is, like, I know how cheesy this movie is. I know how it just doesn't quite work on a lot of levels. I'm able to find joy in it because, like, it's, I don't know, I've been watching a lot of John Carpenter movies for Five Facts and finding a lot of things that I do like about them, despite them being sometimes awful. So I have a special nostalgia for this type of movie because of my childhood of watching these on VHS as well. So I have a little bit more of that. It's the same thing with Big Trouble in Little China. Like, you didn't have the like sleepover context of always having like that as an option at midnight whenever all your friends are buzzed on Mountain Dew and just chilling. So
Yeah,
there's a little bit of like the rose-colored glasses looking back at these movies and being wowed as an 8-year-old by Snake Plissken.
I guess also, I mean, with Big Trouble in Little China, at least I think, at least by the end of thinking about that movie, I got that I forget what the main character there is named, but that he's not really the hero that he thinks he is. That there's some kind of commentary there, sort of poking fun at the action hero archetype. And while it didn't, again, I didn't, yes. Well, I didn't get into the film in much the same way I didn't get into this film. At least I could appreciate it on that level. I don't appreciate the just everything sucks message of this movie. Maybe it's because I'm not from that time. Maybe because I wasn't living through that crime wave. But I would rather see a movie that says, okay, some things suck. Maybe it would be better if we did this other thing to fix it. You know, maybe the police state's the bad guys and we're making criminals of people that aren't really criminals. If the movie had like a stronger point there, instead of just everybody is terrible, that would have resonated more with me.
I can see what you're saying, but like I always like bad protagonists. Like, I've never had a problem with it. Like, we've heard you say that at least like 30, 40 times over the course of the podcast. Like, there wasn't anybody to root for, and it's like, yeah, I can root for this guy. Like,
I can root for
an
Snake.
easier sell.
I'm not actually. I get that Snake is a fun character. It's not that I hate Snake. I understand what he is, right? I'm just saying there's nobody. Rooting for him is not the point. I'm saying the overall message of the film is that everybody is dirty and everybody is crooked and the world is just slap full of awfulness and terribleness and there's nothing you can do about it and there's no help and the crooks are crooks and the cops are crooks and the heroes are crooks and everybody's crooks.
Yeah.
The end.
We don't really get an idea of what the actual like mainland people are like either. Like, other than the people being like, this is for the workers.
Right, and I think there's a little bit of sense of that there might be some war that they're trying to avert with the other countries that are coming to the table. That there's that sort of discussion in the background when they give him his his mission. But I'm sorry. I mean, I guess I shouldn't apologize for my opinion. It is my opinion, though, and I don't want to. I'm not saying this just to be edgy or like Albert has his own opinions and they're different than your opinions.
It's a movie too hipster for Al.
Was there anything else that you wanted to mention about this film, Tony?
Not really. I mean, there's the obvious parallels between like it and Metal Gear Solid and all these other franchises that have stolen elements from it. The Duke Nukem style, like Duke Nukem is just this movie turned to 11. Like it's definitely had its bit of influence. I'm a huge fan of Kurt Russell, especially in the new Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, all of it's, I don't know. It's harkening back to a time when action movies were just action movies, and it didn't feel like they had to say anything about the world. And that's why I don't dig as deep as you do for that to be like, this entire human existence sucks. So.
Well, I know for a fact that John Carpenter started writing this like as a direct response to the Nixon administration. So he does have a political point of view here. He's not just making just an action movie. He's trying to say something. I just don't really love what he's saying.
I was reading in the trivia earlier as well that it was almost Clint Eastwood who got this part, and I'm wondering what that movie would have been like.
It would have been basically the same movie.
Probably.
I mean, Kurt Russell is essentially playing Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he's got a lot of the same mannerisms, I guess, and like the kind of underspoken thing.
I did love. I will say this. You mentioned the Duke Nukem thing and sort of the era that it came out in. One of the things that struck me watching this was that Kurt Russell in this is supposed to be totally ripped, and compared to the people like the insane muscles we see today, he looks like just like a dude from The Office or something. You look at his. I mean, he looks
His
fine.
arms are ripped. The rest of him is just kind of like average.
Even his arms are good. I would love to have those arms personally, but on the screen, like in a movie setting, he's just sort of some dude.
You also gotta, like, I think this was a little bit before people did the whole like getting your pump on before a scene type stuff too. It's like whenever you see The Rock on film, like if you were to run into him in real life and he's just like hanging out at a restaurant, he's not going to look as big because every time they have him on camera, he's swinging a kettlebell beforehand just to make sure there's blood in his muscles and making him bigger.
Yeah, it's nice. I guess one thing I appreciated is that at the time, we weren't maybe as obsessed with everything being bigger.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
It's like when the remakes of Star Wars came out, like in the 90s. Did you ever see the difference between the Luke Skywalker action figure from the 90s and the one from the 70s?
No.
Like the
Was
70s.
he ripped?
Yeah, like he is literally like shaped like a V, like some like He-Man style in the 90s ones. It's so weird to see. Like the 70s ones, like they're not the greatest molds of all time. Like they actually covered that in a book you and I both read about Star Wars taking over the universe or whatever. Like but they were still pretty decent action figures, and like they were at least normal proportions. And then you see these 90s ones, and he straight up looks like a Viking.
I also wanted to mention, did you watch this on Netflix, Tony? That's how I watched it.
Yeah.
The version that they have on Netflix, for me, like the picture quality wasn't great. Not like my streaming service wasn't doing good. It just felt like portions of the frame would be out of focus that shouldn't have been. And I couldn't tell if that was like John Carpenter being limited to crappy lenses, or that the film had degraded before they were able to get it transferred, or what, but it doesn't look amazing.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like there are times where even like the label on a door is out of focus. And I don't know if that was just like they didn't have time to go back and reshoot something. Like I'm sure it was actually done on film, so they didn't get to see it until after it was already completed, but that still seems like easy enough stuff to reshoot.
Well, even stuff that's in focus, sometimes pieces of it feel out of focus. Not like, foreground, background stuff, because obviously that's in the camera, right? But sometimes just like the whole top of the frame would look kind of fuzzy. And I kept thinking, again, maybe it was like a problem with the film, or there was a scratch on the lens, or I don't know. But it seemed that was a little, not off-putting, not like, that's why I didn't like the movie, you guys. But it was just another sort of element that really, I was going to say made it look dated, but there's a lot of films from that era and even earlier that don't have nearly as many of those problems.
This movie looked very dated and very cheap in a lot of ways. I know it wasn't that cheap either. It was like $6 million to produce.
The special effects I thought weren't bad. I liked, especially knowing the fact that they did the wireframe models from the inside of the planes with like actual physical buildings that they built a model of and put glow tape on, because like actually rendering a wireframe model even that low resolution was so expensive back then that they just filmed, a thing that looked like a wireframe model.
That is pretty interesting. I didn't read about that.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting composite shots. The helicopter, I mean, you can tell it's a composite shot, but the helicopter going over the bridge at the beginning, and there's like a spotlight that falls on some rocks in the foreground, and it looks to me like that spotlight isn't literally coming from the helicopter, but they sure did do a good job of matching up, like, okay, there's the helicopter, and then we have a light on this element that we're going to shine on it as it goes over. I actually don't hate the special effects in this. I think that they do a good job with what they have, and while the world that they build is sort of just your standard grimy, terrible future that lots of people have built, there are some elements of that I like. I really, really love the Duke's ride with the lamps on the front.
The chandeliers and the disco ball inside.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good world building. You needed more. I wanted more of that. I wanted like more of a sort of not Mad Max, but in that direction where there's this whole aesthetic that these people have built up rather than just, well, this sucks and it's crappy. And you didn't get, I didn't get much of that. And they filmed this in St. Louis, which I thought was interesting. They had like an actual section of, I think it was Chicago that they got some of the burned out stuff for, that they'd had a real fire in a neighborhood and they just went there and filmed because it looked like that. They needed really beat up looking stuff.
That kind of sounds like in the movie Monster. I think it was Gareth Edwards' first one. Mm-hmm. Where it was shortly after a hurricane, and he went down there and just got all sorts of like good wreckage shots because of that.
Hurricanes will mess up some places.
Yeah, I think that was in like Galveston or something. It might have been closer to Louisiana. I remember it was shortly after Katrina, if I'm remembering correctly, and there was just a bunch of destruction. He was able to turn that into some quick, easy sets for his movie. Which I know you weren't the biggest fan of that one, but we could all see the potential in what he was doing with that, especially since he did all the effects with his laptop.
I didn't hate that movie for sure. I didn't love it. It was one of those movies where I was like on the verge of loving it, and I kind of got frustrated because I didn't. This one is on I'm just kind of bored. I'm going to watch it because it's a podcast movie, but not my thing. I was hoping it would be. I really wanted it to be.
Yeah, I think one of the only ones that's ever turned around on you that was like Dark City.
Yeah, I got better on Dark City. That's true.
Otherwise, you pretty much remember it the way it was.
Oh well. Let's move on, Tony. Did we get any viewer questions this week?
Oh, we did. We got two that are related, so we'll ask them at the same time, and then I'll ask the third question here in a second. Dan Malinsky of Fourth Room Brewing asks, if you had a month off and money wasn't an issue, where would you travel and why? And on the same vein, Doc Occupant on Twitter, our friend David asks, what is your ideal holiday destination?
I want to go to India. Real bad.
India would definitely be awesome. I think the only thing I really don't want to do with India is just the whole bathroom situation. Because I talked to my teacher who spent 2 or 3 months there, and she was saying, it was just disturbing how often you had to leave the hotel and just go take a dump on the beach. And then you were expected to go hang out at the beach later. And just stuff like that. And it's this is in an actual hotel. And it just kind of it just sounded so dirty. Everything else sounded awesome about the trip. The food, the people, the sights, the incredible, bits of architecture mixed in with, incredible poverty. But, just everything about the country is fascinating, but I definitely don't like the sanitation situation.
Okay. I don't know about anything about that. Maybe I would come home and say the same thing. Man, India wasn't the place to pick. But I really want to try their food out. I want to go and go to some Bollywood movies in a Bollywood theater. Although I guess I wouldn't know what they were saying. They wouldn't have English subtitles.
I bet you could find somewhere. There's got to be some places for expats and people working there to see some movies. I'm sure they have a lot of American movies there as well, but that's not why you would want to. That's not what you'd want to see while over there.
I do not. No. I by the way, have I mentioned my crazy plan that if I was producing a movie, I would want to do a remake of The Princess Bride, but use their studio system, get people from Bollywood to make The Princess Bride. I think that would be amazing.
The thing is, I think they already have that story. Whenever we were studying India in my high school classes, they were saying that every third movie out of there is basically a Cinderella tale, or people going from a low station in life and moving up, and it's kind of a reflection of the caste system and people wanting to break free of it.
I haven't seen that much, although maybe that just reflects my taste in the movies. I don't pick their romances and very many of their dramas. I don't think that's as true today.
And it was 15 years ago, whenever I was hearing that from high school, and it looked like it was an older tape that we were watching in the middle of class. So who knows about that?
They have some really good stuff coming out today.
Yeah, they have the thing that struck me about Dahoom 3 or whatever it was it looked so perfect. It was just pretty. I didn't expect the production values to be better than most Hollywood movies I'd seen that year.
They have a knack for the visual for sure, and they're not afraid. I think the thing with Bollywood is, and we've talked about this in the past, so I won't belabor the point too much, but they're definitely not afraid to not mimic reality.
Yeah,
They will do the pretty thing whether or not it makes sense. And I enjoy that choice. Not every film, but a lot of times. There was a great sequence. You know how there was that Hardcore Henry movie that came out at the end of last year?
The first-person action movie.
Right. There was a movie called Force 2. It's on Netflix, by the way. You can check this out. And they did not do the whole movie in first person. But they did... And this is something that I like, because I tried to watch Hardcore Henry, and I didn't really appreciate the whole movie being in first person. It just didn't work for me. There's other things that I didn't dig about the movie also. But there was this action sequence later on where he's like doing hand-to-hand combat, and they switch to a first-person view. And they'll switch out of it and sort of like a wide, and then they'll switch back to him like in first person. And I was like, okay, here you go. Like, this is a tool that's new and different and like a cool visual style, and you insert it in a way in your movie that's not like the whole movie. It doesn't have to be all that one gimmick, but really using that in a cool way along with other types of cinematography.
So it's like the end of Doom, basically.
I never finished Doom, so I don't know.
Yeah, at the end of Doom, whatever
hand was there in that?
There's a fair amount of hand-to-hand and also just a lot of gunplay. But like whenever he enters God mode, which is basically thrown on that sheet, like it goes full first person for a while, and he just wrecks shop for like 3 or 4 minutes. It was easily the best scene of that movie because that movie was pretty terrible.
I did not. I didn't get to that. Maybe I should just Google the YouTube of just that.
It would be worth a watch.
It was nice, especially the hand-to-hand stuff, because the camera would move as he's like flipping and like throwing some guy, and you'd like look over and see the arm as it's doing the thing that it's doing. I might be overselling it. I just really enjoyed that movie too. I enjoy a lot of Bollywood action films. What was the other question we had?
You
didn't answer. Yeah.
I think part of what I would want to do is actually do like a full-on circumnavigation of the Earth. Like maybe not spend a whole lot of time in one area, but like I don't know if a month is enough to actually do it and see a whole lot by boat. But I think if you were like just kind of hopping, like I'd start with a quick like fly over to Hawaii, spend a couple days there because it's pretty awesome. Then go to like Thailand, Japan, like do some Asian stuff. Go over Russia, maybe go see my buddy down in Tanzania because he's been trying to get me to go there for years now. Just kind of like check out all the different continents. I would love to actually be able to say that I've been to Antarctica as well. Like I just want to do the whole like the full circumnavigation. Say I've stepped on every continent. Like that's what I would really want to do if the resources weren't an issue.
Have you made it to South America yet? Because that's like
I've made it to Central America, not South America. I do really want to go to Peru someday though. Like I want to go to Peru. I kind of want to check out Brazil. There's a lot of stuff I want to see down that way. Like, I want to see Machu Picchu. I want to meet some shamans and take a bunch of ayahuasca. I want to do all that stuff.
That sounds amazing. There's so many places, Tony.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to see them because it costs money.
Lots of money, and it's also just the time aspect of it. Like, we keep ourselves pretty busy these days. Like, imagine how much you'd have to get ahead to take a month off.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll hire a replacement. There's got to be some more bald people out there who can talk about TV shows.
Yeah, just set up the rotation. But yeah, I think that's how I do it. Like I just try to get a little flavor of everything, and then decide where I'd want to go back and actually get like the full depth later.
Fair enough. What's the next question, Tony?
Next question also comes from Dan Malinsky, movie related. In the remainder of 2017, which movie are you most looking forward to seeing?
Ooh, this is a tough one. Let me open up IMDb.
I know that like what I'm really looking forward to The Last Jedi. That's right before 2018.
That's a good answer. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
I'm excited for Wonder Woman still. Like I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's DC. It's gonna just absolutely be terrible. But I'm holding out hope for that one. I'm gonna have to look up the list. I'm not exactly excited for Baywatch. Like, there's a lot of decent ones coming out.
I mean, I'm not either.
I'm not gonna go after like and go immediately to see The Mummy. Like, there's not a whole lot that's coming to mind right now. I know there's some really good ones coming out.
Last Jedi is an excellent answer to that, though. I think. I'm trying to see most anticipated of 2017. Let's see what this guy said. By DMAP161. Let's see if I agree with him. Is Justice League coming out this year?
If it is, it's going to be coming out right at the end, but I think it's early 2017. Let's look.
This guy has Dunkirk. That's fine.
I'm
Kingsman.
excited about Dunkirk. Kingsman, I'm excited about too. It
I'm
looks like
excited about this
Justice
Baby
League
Driver
is
movie.
November 17th. Oh, I just thought of one. I really want to see Atomic Blonde. I don't care if it's like a straight up John Wick with Charlize Theron. I do not care at all. I want to see that movie bad.
I care if it's a John. I care if it's a John Wick with Charlize Theron. If it's not, I'm not interested.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Is like I've seen people criticize and be like, "Oh, it's just gonna be derivative of John Wick," and it's like this actually looks like it's got a little bit more of like maybe a story than John Wick. John Wick is more built on the world than it is on on the story, especially in the first one. Like, I don't know. I think Atomic Blonde looks awesome.
I'm going to say one that may not be in a lot of people's eyes, but Valerian in the City of 1,000 Planets.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a good one. Or it looks like it's going to be a good one. Even if it's a Fifth Element, like, carbon copy, like, I want to see it just because it looks like it's going to be visually stunning. And I like, God, what's the director's name for that?
No idea.
Luc Besson, I want to say? Let me pull it up.
Oh, yeah, for Valerian?
Yeah.
I was reading this list, Tony.
Yeah, Luc Besson.
I did a bad job.
He was the one who did Fifth Element. He did that Jean Reno one, The Professional, or Leon the Professional. Lots of good stuff to like there. Yeah, Valerian's going to be a decent one. Plus, it's based on like a Korean, like a manga.
No, it's a French.
French.
It's a French comic book.
Oh, so it's kind of like Snowpiercer in that sense.
Is it? I didn't know Snowpiercer was.
I'm probably mixing up all sorts of different things right now in my head.
I think Snowpiercer was Korean.
Yeah, I'm mixing up all sorts of different stuff in my head right now. It's like the connections aren't there. So we're just going to stop talking about that. But Luc Besson is good at making movies, except for like Transporter and stuff like that. But
was that a Luc Besson movie?
He wrote it.
Oh, what's wrong with Transporter, Tony? I mean, it's no Transporter 2.
Actually, he was the one who wrote Transporter 2 and Taken 2.
Speaking of Korean movies from that are coming over to America, it's very similar to, I think, the same director as the train movie that you just said.
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer, yes. Let's move into trailer talk and talk about this Okja trailer, Tony.
All right. Okja starts out, little girl playing with a giant hippo pig thing, and then environmentalists try to rescue it because they're trying to turn it into a new form of like delicious meats for full-on consumption.
Wait, the environmental group is trying to do that?
No, the environmental group is trying to save it while whoever was
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton.
Also from Snowpiercer.
Yes. I'm pulling up Okja right now. As they're trying to market it as like the new pork, basically.
Yeah, it's like basically the premise of this movie is this corporation has genetically modified pigs to be better tasting, to consume less, take up less of a footprint on the earth, and to produce less waste. And a little girl has one of these as a pet somehow. We don't know exactly. And it gets taken away by this corporation. And the trailer is... It does not give a ton of the story away, other than that basic premise. But it feels very kinetic and interesting. And there's a lot of hints at subtle weirdness for these characters. Tilda Swinton's character as this person who's created these pigs I don't know, like I don't know how to feel about her. She's obviously playing kind of a villain role, but on the other hand, you can look at her and say, but this is something we need. Like, she's creating a good food source. It's this meat thing. She's trying to help the environment, and yet maybe she's made these a little bit too smart, or maybe...
I feel like it's a flawed premise in the fact that, like, if they were actually putting this into production, would they need just this little girl's pig thing?
I hope that the movie will do a good job of explaining that to me.
Yeah, like if it's the only one and they're trying to clone it or something like that, but we'll see.
Or maybe all the other ones taste bad. Like, this is the only one from the line that tastes like bacon. The rest of them have a bitter taste.
Yeah, the rest taste like turkey bacon.
But you get the feeling, maybe other people don't, but I sort of watching this when the environmental guys come in and they're like, we're going to help you get your pig back. I'm like, those guys are going to screw her over too.
Yeah, you can tell. Never trust Paul Dano.
Paul Dano's in this movie. I love that, by the way. And I think the guy who plays Gus Fring in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul is in this as well.
Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito, I believe is his name.
Thank you. Yes, Giancarlo. I think is how you pronounce that.
Probably, yeah.
He's but you remember the name, so you get the credit there. He's in here. It just looks like a movie that has a lot of heart and a lot to say, and it looks good, and it's coming to Netflix. They played it at Cannes, and it got booed, and people didn't like Netflix making movies, guys.
Yeah, Netflix got booed at Cannes several times, even though I'm sure there's a lot of directors out there that were like, man, I hope Netflix buys this. Like, if your option is basically like try to have like a really weak indie release or Netflix just pays you off, I think there's a lot of guys who would like that, because you're talking about a platform that's going to get your movie watched a whole lot more than if you're having a very limited release on 30 screens in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, there's the appeal of the theater, right? And they are bringing it to show to people in theaters. I wish that there was more, and I understand why there's not, right? Because theaters don't want to compete with sitting at home. But it would be nice to have the option to go to a theater and see some of these movies. Well,
the thing is, a lot of the ones that are in my town are able to compete because they are being more comfortable or they're filling a different niche. Like the Lyric Cinema in my town is where I saw like Raw the other day. And that one's in a weird spot right now because it's sharing space with the Masonic Temple. But like they're about to finish their own theater. It's going to be like a little 3-screen thing. It's a lot of really comfortable couches. They do like free Saturday morning cartoons and cereal. They do a lot of really interesting stuff to make it very comfortable and just a different experience. It's kind of like the XD theaters from Cinemark. You're having to have like reclining chairs, big comfortable spots. They're serving drinks. They're making it so that it's a more home-like experience. Like even in a crowded theater at that place, it doesn't feel like it's crowded because you're not having to share an armrest with somebody. So it's like it's getting to be more comfortable like the home theater. And I'm willing to pay $2 extra to have that experience. Like whenever I went and saw Alien Covenant, it was a fully packed theater. I was like the last one to buy a ticket. Thankfully, it was in the back corner, so I wasn't like pressed up against the screen. But in a full house, it didn't feel like there was anybody else in there.
I'm making a note about Alien Covenant because you saw it and I saw it. I'd love to discuss that with you a little bit before the podcast is over.
All right.
But moving on with trailer talk, the next one from this week, again, there's a lot of like big trailers that came out this week that I was just completely bored out of my mind by.
Can you
like
list
even
a
the
couple?
Transformers? What?
Can you list a couple? We won't discuss them. I'm just wondering which ones bored you.
Well, let me go here and look at the Movie Clips Trailers channel that I watch. So there was definitely the Transformers one, which I just didn't care about. It was cool they had Grimlock, but they started showing you the humor from that movie, and that's what sinks all of those. Let's see. Wish Upon, that horror movie with the little weird music box, did nothing for me. The Mummy, I'm getting really nervous about that.
Yeah, that feels like it's going to sink the Universal Monster Universe before it even really gets started.
Dark Universe, Tony. The Dark Universe is what they're calling it. Don't you understand? And I'm very excited for this film, but they released a sneak peek of Valerian and the Thousand Planets, essentially a trailer for the trailer, which is already problematic enough. They released it a week before the trailer comes out. Like, I don't need your 18-second spot to get me hyped up a week ahead of time. You dropped that, like, the day before, so I know something's coming. That's how that works.
Marketing genius Al Berg.
I am. Anyway. Oh, also, Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature. I was never going to be excited by that one. But, you know, it's...
What? Nut Job 2? There was a Nut Job 1?
Yeah, you didn't see the Nut... Yeah, no. By the way, what a weird sequel to make. When did the Nut Job come out?
2014, according to this. And Brendan Fraser,
What, really?
Will Arnett, Liam Neeson, Katherine Heigl. Some big names in there.
It was way before that.
This is saying The Nut Job, 2014.
No, you're right. What am I thinking of then? There was like another animal-related...
Kids' movies are your thing, not mine.
No, you're probably right. I thought I'd seen this back in like 2000, and they were just now 17 years later making a sequel to The Nut Job. I'm probably thinking of a different terrible squirrel-related.
I mean, Ice Age had like a squirrel with going
No,
crazy
it's
for
not
nuts
Ice
on
Age.
it.
Over the Hedge is what I'm thinking of.
Ah, yes. Another one that I've heard of but never saw.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. The next trailer from this week that we're going to talk about, though, that did strike my interest, is Battle of the Sexes, which is a trailer for a movie recounting the true story of a tennis match between a male player and a female player in the 70s, I believe. The female tennis player was named Billie Jean, and I don't remember the guy's name.
Wait a minute. Say this movie again. Did I watch the wrong trailer?
Did you watch Battle of the Sexes?
No, I watched the 1974 trailer you sent me about with Peter Cushing in a kung fu movie.
Oh, we'll talk about that too. Well, I'll just quickly recap Battle of the Sexes then. I really thought that the hook on this trailer was excellent, showing showing Steve Carell walking into the place, the Gamblers Anonymous, and being like, "You guys, you know what your problem is. It's not gambling. It's that you're bad gambling." He like breaks out a pack of cards, and instantly you get who this character is, this sort of brash, over-the-top showman who's willing to plow over everybody to sort of amuse himself. And this guy gets into his head that he's going to have this exhibition championship match tennis against this woman who's much younger than him and actually in her prime. He's like washed up. And there's the element of, he's sort of playing on the Battle of the Sexes stereotype thing, but it's also just him like hamming it up so big and going up against Emma Stone in great sort of 70s makeup. You know, she's got the hair and these giant wire rim glasses, and I don't know that I'm like ultra excited about the movie, but the way this trailer sold the movie, I was very happy with. So Tony didn't get to watch that one.
I just watched a chunk of it, and it actually does look pretty interesting. Like, it's also getting pretty popular on IMDb. It's like surged up like 1,500 points in their rankings in the past couple days. So apparently, a lot of people are liking it. I love that Steve Carell was able to break out of like the whole Daily Show correspondent, like only comedy thing, because he is a really good actor. Whatever you let him have
amazing.
A good role.
Yeah. There was that one moment, I remember talking about this in the trailer for The Big Short, which I did end up seeing and really liked, by the way, where he's just
that one's on
like,
Netflix still, I believe, too, if you guys want to see it.
It was, at least. It probably still is. And just like in the trailer for that, him yelling at some guy, and just his presence on screen and the way he brings these sort of quirky, like there is comedy to his characters a lot of times, but there's depth to them as well. I just really respect him as an actor.
Yeah, it's not not like his his character from Anchorman, who's just really, really dumb and yells a lot. Like there's a lot more depth to what he can do in these ones.
Yeah. The movie that Tony was talking about is, because there were so few trailers, and I usually try to get 3. Because there were so few trailers that interest me, I ended up on Blumhouse.com again, and they highlighted something in the past that I hadn't seen. By the way, I'm going to recommend Blumhouse.com again. They're not paying me or anything. Okay, 100%. Like, this is just my opinion. They end up with some really cool stuff.
Blumhouse, if you would like to start paying Al, we can talk about your stuff more.
But they had an article highlighting this movie called The 7 Golden Vampires from 1974. And this trailer is better than any of the other trailers besides the 2 we talked about that came out this week. And I thought it was worth discussing. It's a Hammer horror film about vampires starring Peter Cushing, but also a martial arts movie filmed entirely in Hong Kong.
It actually did look pretty awesome. I love those old kung fu movies. I even love the little like callbacks or the little like themes that you see, like whenever a guy rips out somebody's heart in a kung fu movie. And, like, he tries, but it's just, like, dust because it's a vampire. It's like, it's just so dumb and so good.
They also had that, like, especially in the 70s, I guess they hadn't really perfected the fight choreography, because some of this looks kind of rough.
Yeah.
They're touting, like, the new martial arts champion from Hong Kong.
David Chiang. And I'm sure he was all right, but, like, he definitely didn't have the flair that Bruce Lee had.
Yeah, it did seem like the kind of thing that I just want to see. And I love the sort of merging of the cultures here. The idea that, okay, we're going to bring English language actors over here that have name recognition, but put them in this style of movie that's very popular over there, kind of like the Godzilla adaptation for America, where they used footage from Godzilla, but then had the Raymond Burr character in there as sort of a mouthpiece for the American audience, so that you could explain things in English but still get your cool Godzilla action.
Yeah.
It kind of, not that exact thing. I'm not saying that they made this movie and then redid it with Peter Cushing, but they're sort of having that kind of cultural appropriation, which is usually a bad word, but in my eyes, it's cool to sort of get new flavors in your art from other places. And this is not new, 1974, but...
Oh, David Chiang is still busting out movies. Like, I just clicked on his IMDb, and he's got, like, 3 Kung Fu movies in the past 3 years.
Really?
Yeah. From
How
Vegas
old?
to Macau. He's 60... He was born in 47. He's, like... Yeah, so he'll be 70 this year. And he's still busting out movies.
Okay. Good for him, I guess.
He has a lot of credits, too. Like, 136 credits. Good
Getting
for
that
him.
work,
Yeah.
man.
A lot of
Doing
them are
Kung Fus.
Yeah, a lot of them are Chinese movies. You can tell just from the titles, but there's a lot of English titles mixed in. So, good for him.
I did want to, before we close out, because we're running a little bit low on time, Tony. You saw Alien Covenant,
Yes.
and I saw Alien Covenant, and we're not gonna. I already did a recap on it, or rundown, or whatever we call those things, a review. But I kind of wanted to get your perspective, because I know you're a little bit more of the fan of the franchise than I am, and I wanted to hear what you thought. Obviously, spoiler free.
Yeah.
For those of you who are worried about that.
Some of the main worries I had going into this is that it was going to be a little bit like over concept, trying to come up with excuses for the alien to exist instead of just letting it go. It does that a little bit. I'm trying to think of ways of saying it without without spoilers. I probably liked it more than you did, but not by a ton. Like, I would give it like a solid 7 out of 10.
I felt like it was a 5 for me.
Like,
They had somewhat of the same problem that Escape from New York had. It felt like so slow.
it took a while
in
to
lot
get
of
things
places.
rolling. The violence was exactly what you want from an alien movie, except for like a little bit over CGI. Like, I kept thinking in the middle of it, like, I really miss people in costumes sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
and there were parts where it was just fine. It looked great. And then there were parts where it's like, it's just, it looks too weightless. That's the weirdest thing about CGI to me, is that it never looks like the thing running has any impact on the world. That's why I think whenever you've got War of the Planet of the Apes, and you've got, what's the actor who always does that stuff? The guy who did Gollum and everything. He was in the Prestige like 3 weeks ago. Whenever you've got somebody in a suit and redoing...
Andy Serkis.
Yeah, Andy Serkis. Whenever you've got something like that, you can actually see dust kicked up or rocks moving or things like that. And you can always do that a little bit with CGI, but there's just something better about it whenever you can actually get like the full thing there and clean it up in post, instead of just a wire model that people are running from. Like,
I just wanted to... This is kind of unrelated, but I just wanted to mention Michael Bay is actually really good at doing that with his Transformers robots.
Oh, I've noticed that. Like, whenever one goes like sliding and it actually like nudges a car or something like that.
Yeah, or kicks up dust. Again, I was not impressed with the Transformers trailer, but there's a moment where there's like pieces of a thing flying together in this trailer, and it's just like ripping all this dirt up. And you can, knowing what I know about Michael Bay, he probably did like a practical pull of all that dust and then use that and added on the effect on top of it.
Yeah.
Because he cares about some aspects of those movies.
Well, he definitely cares about the aesthetics of them and about that like fat paycheck he gets every time.
Fat monies.
But yeah, like there were just too many times where it felt a little bit plasticky. There were some awkward moments with Fassbender's characters, but like I think that
Well, that was 100% intentional.
yeah, that was pretty intentional. But I'm interested in seeing what the third part of this like whole like Origins trilogy is gonna be, because of where they left it. I won't say anything more than that. Like, if you're a fan of the Alien franchise and you could stomach Prometheus, go see this, because it is better than Prometheus.
The thing that I keep coming back to, and it's something that I don't think I talked about a lot in my review, but I didn't really feel like this worked as a horror film. even in the moments where it was supposed to be a horror film. Like, they gave away the one, like, sort of real horror scare in the trailer, and there's a lot of it.
There's two scenes that are full on horror to me in this. Like, and you see both of them in the trailer. You see like the shower sequence, and then you see the whole like quarantine sequence.
Even though quarantine just seemed like a lot of action to me, I wasn't scared at that moment. I wanted to have like a jump scare or something, or just feel unease. And
I felt unease because it's like the idea of being fully trapped in that room with that thing. Like, that is very much like that's a very horror element to me. It's like you have no choice but to just try to kill it.
I did like the new iteration of the aliens. The thing that they show at the beginning, the weird albino looking creatures.
Yeah.
Those
what are those called?
Creepy.
The neomorphs?
I think so.
Yeah.
With not by the characters, obviously.
Yeah, that's just what they're called in the script and by the people making it.
Yeah.
So
those things were messed up, and somebody actually mentioned that we've like the alien has been done so much, like the point that we have like chibi toys of the alien now and like little bobbleheads.
Yeah, I think I've got a Pop Funko of the alien.
Yeah, that there's less. Despite the fact that we think we want more of that maybe Ridley was right to get away from that in Prometheus, of having the alien, and that they've just lost that edge. I don't know for sure, but it seemed like it was interesting opinion, and contrasting how the alien plays in this to how the weird, like, albino alien-esque things play.
Yeah, the fleshy version, like the less bug version.
Yeah, it's something new. It's something unnerving that you haven't seen before, and the alien
was definitely
has been
unnerving.
Done so much.
The thing is, like, people aren't going to like this, but I think that the best that those were done on screen was actually in Alien Resurrection. Like, Alien 2 was awesome, but like the way that the xenomorphs actually moved and looked in Alien Resurrection, I thought they were phenomenal. The story was crap. But there are some times where you see those aliens, not when they're swimming, even though I thought that was pretty cool, but like the way they just move. Like, especially whenever they're deciding like which one's going to die so that they can like acid through the floor and escape. Like, just stuff like that. The way the aliens looked was amazing. If I'm remembering right, I was like 15 last time I saw
that thing you just described is actually awesome. Is there a sequence where the aliens are like, all right, we're going to kill you so we can get your acid to go through?
Yeah, they're like, there's a bunch of them locked into different rooms, and they basically shove 3 into these cells. And then, like, they kind of start bickering at each other and snapping and fighting, and the one that's weakest in the room gets ganged up on by the other 2. And they rip it apart so that the acid just melts through the floor and they all escape.
I love that. I don't know, like, I get that the movie's probably terrible, but what you just described, if you pitched that to me, and I had the money, I would have been like, make that.
Yeah. Well,
do that movie.
Joss Whedon had some interesting ideas there. There was just, like, some things that didn't land with it.
I didn't realize that was a Joss Whedon film.
Yeah, Joss Whedon made Alien Resurrection.
He's taking over. By the way, I don't even know if this is technically movie news, but I'm sure many of you have heard Joss Whedon is taking over the... I mean, it has to do with movies. He's taking over the Justice League movie for Zack Snyder, because Zack Snyder is dealing with the loss of his daughter to suicide. And thoughts and prayers and all that meaningless jazz go out to Zack Snyder.
Yeah, that's an impossible situation to really deal with. So I'm glad he's taking time to be with his family right now.
It's sad that, and I get why, because I think that he said he wasn't initially even going to say anything about his reasons, but he realized that if he just left and Joss Whedon came on, there'd be so much, and we would have been doing it too, so much speculation that people would have been saying, they fired Zack Snyder and it's terrible and Joss Whedon's going to have to come in and clean up the mess. It may still be a terrible movie, guys. I don't, that's nothing to do with the movie, but that he cared enough about the people he was working with and Warner Brothers and the movie he was making that he wanted to put those rumors to bed and say, listen, guys, I'm not leaving because everything's awful and Warner Brothers hates me. I've got some stuff to deal with, and it's my stuff, and then sort of did his thing. And I hope he gets better and gets to come back and make some good stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. Like,
That's a terrible tragedy.
That really is like, yeah. It's weird. I've seen a lot of that with NFL coaches recently. Like there was Tony Dungy, and then Andy Reid, and a bunch of other people have like lost their kids to suicide in the NFL recently. It's just strange.
Yeah.
Sorry to end on
That's
such
a
a down note there.
Wow. They're going to make a, you know what? Let's end on an up note, Tony.
Yeah.
They're going to make a Bollywood Rambo movie, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I saw the poster for that, and I was like, oh, I should have probably sent this to Al, but I'm pretty sure you are like halfway to having it tattooed on you at this point. So
Bollywood does great action. They do great Hollywood adaptations, by the way. If you haven't seen their adaptation of the Tom Cruise movie Night and Day, it's called Bang Bang, and that's great. I've seen several movies that were adaptations of other Hollywood action movies that were completely forgettable that Bollywood turns into and makes awesome. And I feel like that they can do something great with this. It's not gonna be. I think it's going to be sort of the spirit of Rambo. It's not going to be an adaptation of the first Rambo with all of just the sort of pathos and everything. It's probably going to be Rambo 1 mixed with like the rest of the Rambo movies. There's going to be some big action, but maybe I think they'll find the heart in there too. And then Rambo's going to sing. We're going to get a Rambo song and dance movie. What if it's like where he's shooting people in the song and dance sequence? Like he's dancing and like swinging around with his giant minigun.
Why do you have to ruin a good thing?
Anyway, that's all we've got for this week, folks. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this show, go to thehumanechoes.com website and click on Become a Member. You get awesome extra stuff, and it only costs you $2 a week. You get early access to things like Kerbal Space Program and the Dwarf Fortress Let's Plays that we do, and you get the bonus podcast, which is me and Tony and Joe just going through random topics and having a good time breaking them down. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing it, and it's a way you can help support us and enjoy yourself at the same time.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Carbo Dylan, who did an awesome piece of fan art for our D&D campaign, and as of last night actually released a time lapse of that being drawn. So that was a really cool thing to see. So thank you, Carbo Dylan.
As we record this, there's only one episode of that out. I think the next one's coming out
Wednesday.
When the people hear this, it'll be on Wednesday, so before you guys get this. But it's I'm so happy with how that product is turning out, and it's like one of the few products that we make that I go back and listen to. I'm like, oh, you got to hear this. This is good stuff.
Yeah, so definitely check that out on the YouTube channel, or if you're subscribed to the podcast, we'll be dropping them in here too, since it is an audio-only medium.
And next week, we will be covering what? The Midnight Meat Train.
Yep.
That's what it was, Tony. Apparently, a lot of y'all have been requesting it to Tony. I haven't heard any of those requests. I've seen it way back in the day. Tony has not. It is a horror film based on a Clive Barker short story, I believe, or a book. And has Vinnie Jones, I think, in it, and some other people. We're going to be talking about it next week.
It's available on Netflix. Check it out. And
it is on Netflix.
Yep.
Right.
And we will see you next week. Bye,
Bye
everybody.
guys.